Welcome back to the Plays with Cars YouTube channel. I'm Michael, and well, we're going to do something a little different this week for Miniatures Monday. First of all, yep, we are back in the garage again with the 944 project, but we're not doing any of the full-size car stuff today. It is indeed Miniatures Monday. You'll notice we have a little bit of upgrade, hopefully hear it too. The review that we did last week on the Team Transports. I got a couple of comments and DMs about the volume being kind of wonky. So went ahead and got an upgrade on the microphone. So let me know how that works. But what we're going to be talking about today is kind of dealing with your collection and figuring out what to do, how to display, and when it's time to move on. And here's a peek behind the magic curtain. And you can see why this is my topic for this week. You can see I've got one of my plexiglass display cases here on top of my workbench because it's not quite hung up on the wall yet. And that's both a little bit embarrassing and just kind of a little bit what happens with these kind of things, right? We see the little toy cars, we really like them, we buy them, and they just kind of end up everywhere. And so you really have to kind of come up with a plan of what are you really going to do with these things? How are you going to display them? What is your collection really, like what is its purpose? And I've been wrestling with that because we actually moved and I've been trying to figure out what to do with the collection. I actually used to have this hanging up in my home office along with a couple other display cases full of completed models, scale models that I had built. And it looked really nice in there. In the new place, I don't really have the room to do that. And also just wanting to change it up a little bit. I really like the idea of having the cars in the garage. One of our neighbors across the way has one whole wall of his garage done up with Hot Wheels cars, literally floor to ceiling, wall to wall, which is pretty cool. But yeah, it gave me ideas of like, oh, I could put some of the like 1/18 scales up high and stuff like that. But also like to do these videos, you really want to have a fun background while you're talking to the viewers. And well, nobody wants to look at mess on the workbench, but you know, the cool display full of die-cast cars in the background, you know, some signage and things like that is really cool looking. So I will be hanging this up. I will be going through the cars and kind of adjusting what's in here. And then I've also got some of my ones that are in package that I'm going to leave in package because I love the packaging, that'll hang up kind of around it. And that'll be the wall behind the tool benches here with the idea of being, I can do these videos and you guys can actually see cool stuff instead of just piles of boxes and garbage. Now, funnily enough, what I have in this is actually this whole top row are die-cast versions of real cars that I've owned, some of which you've seen on the channel. We started this channel with the Project Bronco. We had our Boxer project, the Cobra, things of that nature. And back in the day before YouTube, I, of course, built a Javelin, a different Porsche 944, a couple of RX-7s, Miatas, things like that. And so it's just been kind of fun to get die-casts of the real cars and kind of stick them in the top row. You can see there's a little bit of muscle car stuff in there, mostly AMC, a few Porsches, and then a whole bunch of racing cars, specifically Le Mans racers and other GT prototype, things like that, things that do road racing. And I think what I'm going to do is actually transition this case, other than the top row, into all Le Mans racers because those are my favorite, and that's really what I want to display in here. The only other thing that I've thought of is I do have quite the collection of Trans Am stuff, SCCA Trans Am, so I might be replacing these rows with the Trans Am cars, plus it would still be keeping in the theme. Where we run into the issue is over here in the remnants of Mount Boxmoor. Basically, when we moved, everything was in boxes. We threw it all in the garage, and we've been going through it and moving in, and we're down to this last pile. And most of this pile is actually mine, and it's mostly my collections and things. And well, in the bins, as you see here, it's just more die-cast. Not only is it more die-cast, it's things that I really don't care about. I mean, a Jeep with flames and a blower is neat, I guess. You know, it was neat to me when I was 13 or whatever I bought this thing was. But now that I am much, much, much older and my kids aren't interested in it and whatnot, it's probably time for it to go. So yeah, there's all sorts of things in here, some of which I've literally been holding on to for 20, 25, 30 years. And it's literally spent that whole time in a bin. And not to get all Marie Kondo or anything, but how much enjoyment are you really getting out of something if it just lives in the bin? You know, not Not necessarily taking it out of the package isn't a bad thing. Like I said, if I've got it, on the walls here in the garage or in the office or whatever, and you get to look at it and it's fun, that's one thing. But literally being placed in a Tupperware, in a box, in the garage, never to be seen for decades, it's probably time to let it go. My 1/18ths were like that. Way back in the day, I had a whole bunch of 1/18th scale cars in my office on shelving around the top, all out of the package, all really cool. Lots of exotics and things like that. And when I had moved back then, I lost the office. I wasn't able to display them. And I did actually end up going through and selling all of them. And it was like pretty cool because I was able to like enjoy them, enjoy selling them. Made a lot of deals with friends and things like that. The collection lived on and is now enjoyed by other people versus being in boxes in my garage. But now I've got all this other stuff left that is in boxes in the garage that I really want to take care of. And so the question really becomes, how do you decide this? How do you deal with it? What's the game plan? Well, what I'm going to do personally, and obviously you can do something completely different, but just this is kind of my thought process, and hopefully it could help some of you if you are also drowning in collection coming out your ears, is I'm going to go through my stuff and really take the time to look at each individual item and dial in, is this something I want to own? Is this something I want to display? If it's something I want to display, then I want to get it up on the wall and make my display here and make it all cool looking. And if it's not going up there, is it something that I'm keeping for a specific reason? Obviously, there's some sentimental pieces, things my family has given me over the years, my dad, my grandfather, things like that, that, I don't want to let go of because of those reasons. And then there's ones that maybe I'm holding on for various projects. I've talked about my HO scale slot car track, ad nauseum. Those pieces being held for that, they'll stick around in a bin. But most of the items, if it's not immediately going out on display or specifically part of a project or something sentimental, it's going to go away. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a bunch of stuff on eBay, put a bunch of stuff on Facebook Marketplace, things like that, and just try to pare it down to the things that I really do like and enjoy and want to keep. And then I want to display it. I want to actually get it up on the wall. I want to be able to look at it. I want it in the background of my shots so that you're not looking at boring old garage doors or something like that. It'd be much better to have the collection in the background when we're doing these Miniatures Mondays and even the videos on the big cars. The other thing I've really thought about is scale, which scales do I really want to collect? I kind of have not much of a menagerie anymore. I've got a whole bunch of 1/64 scale, obviously your Hot Wheels size, and then quite a few of these 1/18ths, but I'm down to just AMCs left. And I'm kind of at the point in my life, I still love American Motors cars. It's still what my family came from and whatnot, but I don't own one. And I haven't owned one in over 10 years now. And again, they just kind of sit in here in boxes, not really being enjoyed or displayed. So maybe it's time to even get rid of the 1/18ths entirely and concentrate just on the 1/64ths. Also save a lot of space. Now, much like my row of real cars here, I do have a couple of random sized cars of the ones that I've owned in real life that you can't get in 1/64th. Specifically, the Boost Wagon are Ford Flex, and the Spicy Jalapeno are Cayenne. So I do have those in different sizes, but they just kind of live inside on the desk and they're going to stay. But anything other than that that's a weird size is definitely going away. I think it's time to just stick to 1/64th. Now that does leave me to the last bit of scale issues, and that's models. Those of you that have been on the channel a long time know that I am, very into the scale model building, and I built a whole lot of model cars. I have for years been in scale auto and things like that, but it's been a hot minute since I've done some, and they haven't really been on my radar. And I'm about to really purge a lot of my scale model collection as far as the unbuilt stuff that I really don't think I'm going to get to. And the reason for that is simple. It's just priorities change, hobbies change. When the pandemic happened, I picked up a couple of new hobbies, started learning how to play guitar, for example, and kind of re-engage with hobbies. And model car building was definitely one of them. I built more model cars in 2020 than I had in probably the previous 10 years. And in 2021, I built about half of that. And in 22, I built none. or maybe half of that. And then in 23, I built none, but something like that. They just really haven't been coming along. And I think a lot of it is just my changing taste in real cars as well. So instead of focusing on quantity or, building yet another perfect replica of a, factory correct car, I really like building, race cars and things like that. I'm going to kind of clear out my collection of everything else, put my 2 acrylic displays up on the wall for the models, and then fill them with the built ones. And when I do build a new one, it's definitely going to be a hard look at what's in the display to kind of rotate out and put in whatever the new build is. In fact, those displays have been sitting on this shelf underneath the 118th since we moved. But that's because the built models are literally on the bottom of Mount Boxmoor. So how does all of this pertain to you? Well, if you're feeling anything like me and a bit boxed in by so much collection, it might be a good time to really look at your collection and think about what it is that you want both to collect and what you want to do with it. I'm definitely on the track of wanting to engage more with my collection. I don't want it just sitting here in bins in the garage for another decade. So if it's not something I can actively appreciate, whether it's up on the wall or a slot car that I can race or something like that, I think that it's time to clear it out. And that's not going to be the answer for everybody, and that's okay. If you really like having a big collection, if you are looking toward future investment or anything like that, that's totally great. But if you are, kind of struggling with what you're collecting or how much you've collected or what to do, I think stepping back and taking a holistic look at it and going, hey, is this really something I want to keep? Is this something I'm going to use? And maybe, clearing some stuff out, even if you do, put the money back into the collection and get something new, that's okay, because you're transitioning it from something that's living out here in boxes to, something you're actually doing. Maybe you're going to get into RC cars. Maybe you're going to get into slot cars. Maybe you're going to put it into your real car or whatever the case may be. I think it's probably, pretty good idea to at least once a decade or so go through the old collection and kind of figure out what's going on and make some changes. So yeah, with any luck over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to get through all that and I'm going to get this up on the wall, and in a couple of Miniatures Mondays, you will see a much nicer background with all of our cars in there displayed nicely so that we can have really good videos about what is coming next to the collection or what's going in or out or moving or changing. And it'll be a lot of fun and a lot more fun to look at than, well, that. Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you got something out of it for your miniature collection as well. If you've got some changes to make, throw them down in the comments below. Let's have a conversation about it. Are you going to pick a scale and stick to it? Are you going to put your stuff on display? Are you collecting, only a specific mark? I mean, obviously, I know people that, they would only collect Porsches or AMCs or whatever. What does your collection look like? How are you going to change it? How are you doing it moving forward? And what are your display solutions? These acrylic cases that I have, they're pretty old. Is there something newer and cooler? Is there a way to rotate your collection through? These are all great points of conversation that we could be having. So definitely, if you've got something to say, throw it down in the comments below, and I would love to have a conversation with you all about it. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of Miniatures Mondays. Next week, we'll be back onto reviewing a specific miniature. Hopefully, I will have gone through some of the collection by then and dug up some really cool stuff, and we'll do some of the vintage things because those are always fun to look at. But yeah, if you like this kind of thing, definitely hit the subscribe button and stick around because we'd love to talk to you about collecting anything automotive related in future episodes of Miniatures Mondays. So until next time, take care.